4, 3, 2.
Good morning and welcome to Neighborhood Day for San Antonio and Bexar County, sponsored by the Bowen Center for Neighborhood Advocacy, along with the city and the county and other very vital partners who have devoted themselves to neighborhoods and who have made our community what it is. I had the good fortune of growing up in a neighborhood where everybody had everybody's back. Everybody was friendly and neighborly. You could borrow a cup of sugar from your neighbor and not have to wonder what was in it. It was just a beautiful scene. And I always thought, as I entered the neighborhood movement, as I would call it, that it would be a way to hold on to some priceless values and virtues or priceless facets of our community that make us what we are. We had a very, very safe and gracious neighborhood, and so it was that I thought of John Bowen being the first American postmaster in San Antonio, to name it after him and allow the years of labor as a virtual volunteer, not virtual in our sense today, but a practical volunteer, delivering the mail for San Antonio at a time when there's no telegraph, no telephone, no PDAs, no anything to communicate with, and to deliver the mail was just critical, and to make sure that it was done in a manner that was honest and forthright and accountable. So John Bowen, God bless you and God rest your soul. I want to especially thank our sponsors, Union Pacific Railroad Foundation, and also Bexar County, and also, of course, John Largent of Game Day Media, who is running our Zoom equipment. We're very much obliged. Of course, Gene Mark, Liz Trainer, and we have other members of the board that we want to thank here. But let me get to the little bit about what was so important for Bowen to exist, and that is to have neighborhoods across the city and the county that would be accountable and something that that we could be proud of. Now, I remember a little San Antonio magazine came out, I think it was, with a front page. The very front page said "Urban Guerrillas," and the urban guerrillas were really just the first batch of identifiable leaders who wanted to make sure that our neighborhoods were everything they can and could be and should be. So that was where I think neighborhoods were more formally organized here. Not that they weren't great in the past. I'm sure that the Canary Islanders and many others in that era had a lot of linkages with each other, but over time, those linkages, I think, became frayed and less helpful. Today, we've built on the foundation of the so-called urban guerrillas, which was kind of a nickname for the groups that first started and were on the front page of that newspaper publication. But then it went from that to the Neighborhood Resource Center, and from the Neighborhood Resource Center to the current arrangement, which the city has done a wonderful job of stepping up to. The neighborhood neighborhood and housing services department, as well as the Bowen Center and others who are doing great work in helping make sure that we continue great neighborhoods, and that when people come into our city to visit, and we are a big time city visitor point, as you know. I think the #1 tourist destination center surely is the Alamo, and then the Riverwalk, but when they go into our neighborhoods, when they go out to the missions, the 5 missions, and a whole lot of other great places, north, south, east, west, I would love for them to be able to say, that's a place I'd like to go back to, and not say, I don't think we'll ever go there again. And a guy from Highlands High School who was given a scholarship to the Detroit Lions after he played for another local college, and later on to LA Rams, said, as he was inducted into the San Antonio Sports Hall of Fame, he said, you know, it's really great to come back to a town where people look you in the eye. And I think that says a lot, because we want to have a people-friendly city, but it starts with our families and our neighborhoods. So with that having been said, I would like to give a special thanks to Union Pacific Railroad Foundation, and also Bexar County for what they have done to help us, as well as John Largent of Game Day Media, who is running the Zoom equipment. Has been a wonderful blessing to us, and we're just excited to have a chance to work with all of these folks, and to make sure, let the word go out, that the fact that we have gone through this very unique time, the time in which we deal with coronavirus and all the other maladies associated, both fiscal as well as physical, that we let the world know that our neighborhoods are strong enough to transcend this challenge, and to continue providing the kind of leadership that makes our neighborhoods something that is extraordinarily priceless. So with that having been said, I would like to introduce our first speaker here, who is a gentleman that has done great things. He has his name is Rich Acosta, and he is known for My City is My Home, which is his business, and it's a 501c3 nonprofit. And he's a real estate agent that has also been a community activist. He has been instrumental in educating people about property taxes. He has also, and God knows property taxes have been through a whole different experience over the last 10 years. He also organized a group of volunteers on the east side to go door to door to help people file for their homestead exemptions. And you wouldn't think that anybody would go without it, but some forget to take care of that because they're mired down with other things. But Rich Acosta is married and has a brand spanking new baby daughter. Congratulations, Rich. And we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts about how property taxes can be dealt with best here in this community.
Hey everyone, this is Rich Acosta. My City is My Home.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
I was switching from attendee to panelist. All right, so let me throw on my PowerPoint presentation, and we are good to go. All right. Can the screen be seen and everything? The presentation? We good? All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead. So my name is Richard Costa, president of Misedades Mi Casa. My city is my home, a nonprofit organization that was started with the idea of real estate agents presenting or providing their volunteer services. Just same thing that we provide for our clients and the real estate industry. We wanted to show an effort that real estate agents can also provide our like services for the community. So what we do in this nonprofit is we help people protest their property taxes, which what I'm going to be speaking to you guys about today. We also help low-income renters find homes. And then we help displaced homeowner support, as well as education and advocacy for renters and homeowners' rights. You know, we fight for, you know, some extra tax exemptions, you know, also for renters out there to increase their rights as well. And so we do lots of stuff, really. But to focus on protesting property taxes, I just wanted to show a little bit of our experience on why I'm here speaking to you all about this today. Is in 2018, we started this, started like a pilot program to see whether or not this would be a good organization to start. And we helped out about 93 clients with just one volunteer. And only about 45% of them actually needed to protest. But we were able to save those individuals over $850,000 in valuations. Our second year, last year, we helped out 288 clients. About 59% of them actually needed to protest. We had 30 volunteers last year, and we saved them, saved our clients over $3.1 million in valuations. And the things that we do is just there's only one key difference that many of you do not have the ability to access is like our MLS information. Our multiple listings service is what real estate agents use in order to protest, to, you know, sell houses and show buyers stuff and everything. And so that is a major source of what we used in order to find the comparables to protest your property taxes, stuff that you're not able to see through public websites like Trulia or Realtor.com or Zillow. You know, you can only see the sales data, but you can't see what is the differences and knowing what to adjust for and everything. And that's what our professional experience is comes into play, and how we adjust these valuations. When helping individuals, we help different home value ranges. We've helped people's homes go all the way up to $1.3 million in valuations to as low as $10,000 in valuations. So we'll help you regardless of your income. And there is a lot of people that indicate that you can't really save more than 10% of your valuation, which is a fallacy, because we've saved just on one house 45% of their home. So that being said, if the home was worth 100 grand, we took off $45,000 off that valuation. So there is no truth to, oh, well, Bexar County Appraisal District will only lower no more than 10%. That's not true. What we're trying to do beyond just protest property taxes, you know, help individuals lower their total valuations, is also try to create a database to show that how we can fix the valuation. You know, everybody just wants to attack BCAT, tax rates. Oh, the city needs to lower. You know, there's not a clear answer to what to do. You know, there's multiple things that needs to happen, right? And one of the things that we want to provide data for is how to fix our valuation system, and hopefully maybe make it so that less people have to protest every year. Some of the things that we found, I'm not going to go through everything, but like Bexar County Appraisal District goes off of square footage of the comparables in your neighborhood. And so they look at the same square footage. And so it doesn't matter if you're looking at a 1-story or 2-story property, they'll compare those two properties together, even as long as they have the same square footage. And in our real estate industry, we don't compare 1 story to 2 stories, because it's a whole different market, right? They also currently don't adjust for bedrooms. So if your house was a 2-bedroom home, they would compare it to a 4-bedroom home if it was around the same square footage and other comparable characteristics. But again, a 2-bedroom home is a different market than a 4-bedroom home. So that's something else we wanted to adjust for. And then the last thing I wanted to point out is that Bexar County doesn't adjust, and something that they can't see because they don't know is seller's concessions. So that is when a home buyer buys a property and something, let's say they needed some extra repairs for the property. And so the seller has agreed to pay, $10,000, aside to go towards that repair. So that'll be the home sold for $100,000 plus $10,000 in seller's concessions or possible cash for repairs. Well, Bexar County doesn't see that. They only see if they are looking at public sites because they don't have access to multiple listing service, what MLS, what real estate agents use. Contrary to popular belief, Bexar County does not have access to that MLS system. And so they only see that the home was sold for $110,000. They don't see that, that 10 grand doesn't really equate to the 110 because that was used to fix the property because of the repairs that needed to happen. So those are some of the things that we're trying to work with Bexar County and show them this kind of data and to hopefully change, how their appraisal calculations are calculated. So really how our program works is that you contact us through our website, mycityismyhome.com. We'll connect you with one of our superhero realtors. We call them our superhero because they're using their special abilities to help the greater good. It's corny, but hopefully it works. And then we help you we'll serve, and then we'll help individuals thrive, especially our low income community. We'll do more than just help them lower their property taxes. We try to connect them with other resources to help them with finance, maybe to help with some home repair and utility services. One thing that I would like to point out is people don't always know what low income is. What is affordable housing? They're just words to a lot of people, but there is an AMI, an area medium income that's associated to what San Antonio considers affordable housing, considers low income, coming from HUD, Housing Urban Development from the federal government. Now, what is considered low income is 80% AMI, area medium income. So that means a family of 4 that is making $56,000 or less is considered low income. Now, that family might not feel like they're low income. They're a military member, they're a police officer, a school teacher. They might not feel low income, perhaps, making $50,000, but that is a category in which there are resources out there for that family, trying to help them not fall back and fall further into a low income hole. And so I just want to make it clear that when people are talking affordable housing, low income individuals, those people, those people are our firefighters. Those people are police officers, our teachers, our military members, because they make this income. Now, the very low income is, somebody is counted as a 1-person household making $14,000 or less. Now, somebody that's 1 person that's making $14,000 or less, well, that's your Social Security recipients. That's your, your disabled, a senior citizen, a disabled person that's surviving off of Social Security. Well, they're low income. And that's what affordable housing is out there for, to help these individuals. So I hope you think twice when NIMBYism, not in my backyard, kips up in your mind, and people are thinking, well, I don't want affordable housing near me. Well, You're saying no to veterans, you're saying no to seniors and disabled. So moving on, BCAD, we like to say BCAD is not the enemy. They have tools and resources that they have to, that's all they have, you know? They don't have the ability to go into everybody's house and make every single adjustment. They have to do it through a wide variety of all the 500,000 plus properties in Bexar County. And so they're doing the best they can with the tools that they have. Also, maybe the homeowner doesn't have the exemptions that could be going to them. You know, the ones that we'll mostly speak about is your homestead exemption, your senior freeze, and your disabled veteran exemption. And then also, you can still protest your property taxes if you didn't receive a notice in the mail. Homes that don't receive more than a $1,000 valuation raise in their property tax valuation probably won't be getting a notice to protest. So those individuals could have still sent in a notice to protest their property taxes. So maybe your property valuations has been increasing throughout the years, but this year it happened to not increase more than $1,000. Well, you could still protest your property taxes. Well, I know the time has already passed to turn in your notice, but this, so I'm gonna go through the really quickly just so that you all can have an understanding of where I'm getting at, and then we'll move forward to more details about you individuals that are currently getting ready to protest. So January is when Bexar County goes out and assesses homes, and they assess homes by just doing a mass appraisal, and they say that they go out to and touch every home every 3 years. Every 3 years, they drive past every neighborhood and try to get some more physical exterior characteristics as well. Then in, here we go. And then next in April is when the notices are normally sent out. So they let people know that in April, hey, get ready. We just want to let you know that your appraisal has gone up and you can protest your property taxes. So that's normally when the notices are sent out, is in April. Normally, again, COVID-19 aside, May 19th is normally the deadline to send in your notice. This year, it was June 15th. So they pushed it up a month, and so that way it gave everybody an extra chance to turn their notices to protest. So that time has passed. So if you didn't turn in your notice this year, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to protest your property taxes. And then lastly, if you mailed in your notice or you emailed your notice to Bexar County, I'm not talking about going to Bexar County bcad.org and then doing an online portal request to protest. I mean, specifically, you went into your own personal email, you filled out the notice to protest, and then you sent it in, or you actually filled it out and mailed it, snail mail, you know, and they're going to be mailing you dates. They're going to mail you your informal and formal dates. So you need to be on the lookout for that to come in your mail. Now, if you went on the online portal, you filled out a username and password, and then you did it all online, well, Bexar County is going to be calling you. They're going to be calling you to do your informal. They're already going to be calling you up and giving you a valuation on what they believe your property could be lowered to, you know, and that's your opportunity to have a discussion with them. So they're calling individuals that did that online protest now. They're doing that now. They I talked to some officials yesterday, and they still hadn't started sending out the notice to protest for people that mailed in their stuff yet. I was on the idea that it was happening in mid-July, but I think it's going to be happening at the end of July now. But those individuals that did on the online portal, be on the lookout. You're going to be getting a phone call or looking at your online portal to see if Bexar County has already started trying to negotiate with you. Because if you don't agree with their online portal suggestion, they called you up or they put it in online that, hey, we're suggesting to put this amount for your valuation. You can say no to that, and then you'll move on to a formal protest. And so that'll give you some extra time to get some more evidence together. Maybe perhaps you weren't prepared, you didn't have your evidence ready. Maybe you even reached out to us, just that we weren't ready to help people that only had a few days to get their evidence together. If you do say no, perhaps we have more time now to help you get your evidence together, but I'm gonna get into some more details about that. So what I would like to do is go to bcad.org, and I'm going really fast. I know this is being recorded, and so you can definitely leave some questions in there, and we can address them because we'll give some time to ask some questions in about 10 minutes or so. So be ready. So this is bcad.org. And here you can go to all the various forms that are out there for your either the notice to protest or even to fill out your homestead exemption information. Here's your residential homestead form where you can put in for your senior freeze, your disabled veteran exemption, so on and so forth. Here is where you can do a property search. And I believe, if I remember correctly, there is a generic property that Bexar County uses that I can pull up really quickly. I think this is it. If not, I apologize for using your property. Okay, so it's all public record. So just to say that. All right, so this individual, if they had filed a protest, you would have seen, you would have just typed in your address. So if you would have saw that, so again, you would just type in your address. And when you type in your address, you can just put in the numbers and the address. You don't put in street or west, you just put in the name and the address. I mean, the number and the address, right? And then it'll pull up to this screen and you can see information about your property. And if you turned in your notice and they've started processing that paperwork, you're going to see a protest status up here. And so that's going to be a good, clear indication that that they have your protest information. So if you don't see a status up here and you turned in your notice to protest, try giving them a call, but they're still processing stuff that's been mailed to them. So don't be too discouraged if you don't see your information there. As long as you have some kind of proof that you sent in the mail, like if you emailed it, they should have replied to you. Or just give Bexar County a call and say, hey, I sent in my notice. Are you still processing? Last time we called, they were still processing people that mailed them in. So there's that. Now, when they give you your informal and formal date, these are for the people that mailed in their notice to protest. You can actually keep up with this. You can see if they have sent you a date yet, because though they're going to mail that date to you, you're going to be able to see the date here first. So that way you can go ahead and keep your eye on this bcad.org page and make sure that when they update your informal date and you get ready for that. It's supposed to be 14, they're supposed to send you your date 14 days before your actual date occurs. So even when your date happens, you're still going to have about 2 weeks to be able to gather some evidence and stuff like that for yourself. Then on this next tab is values. So a lot of people ask me how to protest. Hey, they increased my land. What can I do? Or they just increased my improvements. What can I do? We do not care what those valuations are. This is the market valuation we care about. We don't care about anything else. And that's because when we protest property taxes, or when you protest your home, and let's say you're able to lower it $10,000, well, we don't care if they take it out of the improvements. We don't care if they take it out of the land. At least at the end of the day, this market value amount is lowered. And that is where your property tax rate is applied against. So you don't want to really concern yourself too much. Hey, they raised my land. Hey, they raised my improvements. Bring your evidence. Try to show that the home could, in a reasonable market, if you were in a hypothetical situation, you want to sell your property, the question you need to ask yourself is not what the land says or what that improvement number is if this valuation is a reasonable amount to have a value of your property. If that is in a reasonable market evaluation, well, there you go. If not, then let's protest that valuation. Now, this appraised value, that number only changes depending if you're a farm and ranch property. And then here's your homestead cap. Now, that's the homestead exemption where it kicks in. Now, each taxing jurisdiction, and what I mean by that, if you go into the next tab, you'll see all these different taxing jurisdiction, Flood and Road, San Antonio River Authority, University Health System, college, Alamo Community College, Bexar County, whatever city you live in, and whatever school district you live in. So those are all the taxing, different taxing entities, and they may all have their own different homestead exemption, right? So you'll see different valuations from time to time because each taxing jurisdiction can create their own exemptions. But whenever you fill out your exemption paperwork, Bexar County goes ahead and already uploads all the exemptions that are required, are supposed to go to your property. So you don't have to worry about filling out an exemption for each of these entities. But the overall homestead exemption, that regardless if all these didn't have their own exemptions, the one that most people focus on is a homestead exemption that stops your taxable valuation from increasing more than 10%. So that means if, for instance, our property was worth $100,000 last year, right? And then this year they raised the valuation to $115,000. They're going to subtract $5,000 right here under homestead cap, because $5,000 would be in excess of a 10% of the increase. So Bexar County increased your valuation to $15,000, which is 15% increase. So they're going to chop it off at 10% increase. And so they subtract that $5,000 here, and you'll have only a taxable valuation of $110,000. So that's where that homestead exemption really kicks in. And so then that $110,000 would come down here, and then any extra exemptions would start kicking in, okay? So, but again, when we're protesting property taxes, we don't care what that assessed value is. I don't care if that valuation is $80,000. If that market valuation is $200,000, and we don't believe your home is worth that much, if it were to hypothetically be put for sale, then we're protesting that property taxes. We do not care what this number is. We do not care what that number is. We do not care what these numbers is. We only care when you're protesting property taxes what Bexar County suggested market valuation is. And so that is a quick little bit of when you're trying to pay attention to what valuation am I looking at to protest, that is the only number you should be looking at to see whether or not you believe your home should be is overtaxed, in other words. Now, improvements is another tab that you should pay attention to on your property. So when you go to your improvements, don't really worry about that word improvements. Improvements just means anything that says improve to the land. So if you put a piece of concrete on that land, hey, it's an improvement to that land. So that's what they're talking about, improvements. Now here, they're gonna list in the living area, your carport, maybe a shed, any additions that you did, that kind of stuff is all gonna be listed here. And then if you look to this left-hand corner or this left-hand side under class code, that is telling you what they believe your condition of that property is. So they may believe it's an average condition. A is for average, E is excellent, G is good. If you don't know what those letters are, well, hey, you just click on class code right here, and you can see, you can see what those definitions are. You can see, oh, what does G mean? Oh, I forgot what he said in that video. We'll just go down. You can see what G means. F is fair. So there's different class codes for everything. And so what you want to do is see what they're characterizing your property as. What condition do you believe your home is in? If they think it's in good condition and you think it's more of average condition, well, then that's a good reason to protest your condition as well. Also, before I move out of the screen, I wanted to point out, to find out whether or not you have your exemptions, you can look right here and on your bcat.org property website and see what exemptions you have. So if you see HS, that means you have your homestead exemption, you're good to go. If you see other, that normally means you have a senior freeze or you have a DV, disabled veteran. So those are the different ones. All right, I'm moving quickly, I know, just want to be able to cover everything for you all. So again, wrapping up, homeowner gives us a call, we collect their information, we then assign a volunteer to help you in your case, and then the volunteer will contact the homeowner and help them out. What they're going to want those individuals that we help out, or yourself, what do you need to do to prepare yourself if you're just going to protest on your own, is that you want to take pictures of your exterior of your home and the damages of it. You want to take a picture of your interior, your living room, your bathroom, your master bathroom, and your master bedroom. So that way you can have a good idea of what's going on. So the appraiser can have a good idea of the condition of the home. So if you're trying to say my home's not really in good condition, it's more in average condition, you can go ahead and present these photographs and everything. If you're going to show any damage of your home, when you take a picture, make sure you take a close-up picture, but also a wide shot picture, because if you just show an appraiser just one crack tile or a crack on a wall, they're not going to know what you're trying to show them. They need to see, hey, here's the crack up here, but here's the whole picture of the kitchen, so that way you can have an idea of where this room is and everything. These are some people really think that they have foundation damage, and they might have some stress cracks, but here's just some quick examples of, here's some real foundation damage that you can see, really thick cracks, cracks along the walls. So I just want to have you in your head that Bexar County last year saw, over 75,000 homeowners to protest their property taxes. So they're seeing lots of damage out there. So if you're trying to make a little crack, or maybe a one little drywall hole that comes from your doorknob, don't expect a lot of sympathy from that, because those are just more cosmetics. What they really want to show, have you argue, is structural damage. Good structural damage, not good, but bad structural damage that is happening to your property. And anything that you're showing, you need to provide a contractor's estimate. So that I can wrap up and get to you guys' questions, what you need in order to protest your property taxes beyond taking these pictures is also the evidence packet. So Bexar County has a little packet that they'll give to you for free if you ask for it. So if you didn't ask for it in your notice to protest, you can call them up and ask them if they can send you the evidence packet. And that evidence packet is basically a list of properties that Bexar County is using in order to they use in order to come up with a valuation for your property. So that evidence packet is 100% necessary. Do not ever have a realtor, real estate agent, your friend, your sister, whoever, do a CMA for your property without using the evidence packet. All right. And then also, whenever you're doing a getting your pictures and trying to show damage, you need to get contractors' estimates for that, which our nonprofit will provide you for free as well. How do appraisers get these valuations if they don't have access to a multiple listing system that realtor use? Well, buyers. So real estate agents, have your ear open. Buyers, when they buy a home, Bexar County will send them a letter in the mail asking them to voluntarily tell them what they paid for their property. Well, buyers are telling on themselves. This is a form that they do not have to fill out, right? It's completely voluntary. So please, if you're buying a house, or you know somebody buying a house, or you know a real estate agent, tell them to tell their clients and everything. Don't fill out that form, because it's telling people, telling Bexar County what they bought their home for. Also, a way that Bexar County gets the home values is because of real estate agents. They're doing CMAs for you homeowners that ask them for them to protest your property taxes, or so you could protest your property taxes. Well, if the real estate agent got the comps from the multiple listing system that weren't already on the evidence packet, information that Bexar County already have, well, the real estate agent is now giving information about these properties that Bexar County did not have before, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to share the report with the Bexar County, and they're going to get that information. They're going to get those addresses and those new sales data that they didn't have and upload it. So please do not do comparables with properties that are not on your evidence packet. Evidence packet. So you'll get something like this in the mail. It'll have what all the different codes means. It'll have information about your property, what valuation that they're giving everything, what they believe the condition of all the properties are. What you're going to want to do in that evidence packet is go all the way back in the back of the evidence packet and look at comp sales grid. Those are the properties that Bexar County use. They're going to be a comp equity grid. Well, what you want to use is comp sales grid, right? It's in the back of the evidence packet. These are the properties that when you protest and you're talking to the appraiser over the phone, these are the properties that they're looking at. There's only about maybe anywhere from 3 to 10 properties. Those are the properties that they're paying attention to when you're protesting. So those are what you want to take a look at. You can look up those properties online or ask a real estate agent to go ahead and get these comps on the sales grid and do a comps with these only, nothing extra. There's also some extra properties on the residential sales portion of it, which is in the middle of the evidence packet. Again, you want to use the sales grid, but if some of those properties are really not comparable, that you look online and they're completely remodeled or something, well, you can try to ask the appraiser to use 1 or 2 of these different properties on this page. So that way you can have them show some more apples to apples, and you're not giving away information about sales data about properties that they don't already have. And then a good tip is to go to the residential equity page. And the one that has the 2 stars is your subject property. So that way you can flip between the pages back and forth and match the ones that have the similar codes to yours. All right, so you have your informal protest. If that doesn't work out, then you have the formal protest, which will be with an appraisal review board, which is 3 members on a panel. And then if you don't like that answer from the appraisal review board at the formal protest, you can go to arbitration or the court, but remember, those are not free. Okay, if you happen to lose at the arbitration or at court, you would have to pay a fine for those. But at the informal and formal protest, those are free. Okay, And we always like to point out Sacred is a great nonprofit. Whenever we're trying to help out individuals, connect them to other resources, we send them out, or we use Sacred, SACRD.org. It's a nonprofit that maps out nonprofits. So I believe the Bowen Center is on there, our nonprofit's on there. It's if you're looking for utilities assistance, a food pantry, COVID testing spots, you can go to sacred.org and help out maybe other people that you know that are in need. All right, so that was my quick presentation. If you want our help, please, mycityismyhome.com. If you want our help for protesting, renter support, if you're a real estate agent and would like to volunteer with us, we're not a brokerage. We get real estate agent volunteers from any brokerage. I'll train you how to protest property taxes, and you can start helping out the community. And please, if you like our stuff, please donate, because that's how we can continue to function. All right, so I will end there. And how do you? Let's look at.
Hi, Rich. I've got several questions for you.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, the first one, and several people asked this, is there a limit to how much property value can go up in 1 year or year over year?
No, there is no limitation unless you have the homestead exemption. So the homestead exemption is that 10% cap, and that's only for homeowners. So if you're a homeowner, that means you own the home and you live in the home, you can apply for the homestead exemption, and your taxable valuation can't go up more than 10%. But that doesn't mean the market value doesn't continue to increase. So if you would ever leave your property, let's say rent it out, or you pass away and you pass it to a loved one, whether or not you have that homestead exemption, that senior freeze, that disabled veteran exemption, all that goes away, and that market value then takes a head. So a lot of, we find this from a lot of people that inherit properties. Hey, my grandma was only paying $300 in taxes. Now I have to pay $7,000. What the heck? Well, it's because grandma didn't protest her property taxes. So when you're protesting property taxes, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your heirs, and you're also doing it for the community. Because when you don't protest all these years because, oh, my property taxes is frozen, well, the neighborhood's valuation increases. And so when there's not enough comps in the area, Bexar County will use your neighbor's valuations to evaluate your home. So if your neighbors are not protesting, that market value continues to grow without any end, and you are stuck with the extra bill.
Next question is going back to something you said earlier. Did you say that the assessed value is important for AG property or ag property? Please explain again. Thanks.
Okay, so the assessed value, so if you have a farm or ranch property, there's farm and ranch exemptions that you would have to apply for. And so they give a market value, and then they subtract any of the farm and ranch exemptions, and then they do the homestead exemption, and then that's your taxable valuation. So you got your market valuation, which is the one that we say is what we're trying to protest. Then it's your assessed value that comes after the farm and ranch exemptions, and then the actual assessed value. So it's I think it's market value, appraised value is minus the farm and ranch, and then assessed value, which is minus the homestead exemption.
All right, the next question is, what is the senior freeze?
Okay, so the homestead exemption, again, was for homeowners that own their home and live in that home. That's the homestead exemption. The senior freeze is separate, right? You have to have a homestead exemption. You have to be a homeowner and live in the home to get the senior freeze. But in order to get the senior freeze, you have to be 65 or older. And you can apply for the senior freeze. You know, if I'm turning the 65 in October, yeah, it's not October yet, but I can go ahead and still apply for it and turn in my paperwork. Now, you can turn your paperwork at any time, but they don't file it until January to April. So between January and April, that's when they're filing these exemptions. So the senior freeze, the homesteader, or the veteran. So you, of course, if you're a disabled veteran getting something from the VA, a percentage, that's your disabled veteran exemption. So you can file at any time. I say if you haven't applied for your homestead exemption, send it in now. You know, don't wait until January to turn it in. People say, well, when's the deadline? Now's the deadline. Turn it in now. And they're just going to process it in April. Now, January to April. They'll go back for the homestead exemption 2 years. So I don't care. I'm sorry, not me. It's not me. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you've lived in the home for 10 years. If you're barely turning the homestead exemption in now, come January, they're going to go back 2 years, and then you can actually get a check in the mail. I'm a disabled veteran. When I applied for my veteran disability, they gave me a check in the mail for my property taxes as well. If you're a senior, I believe it's 5 years. So if you turn it in now, January, they process it, they'll go back 5 years. But again, doesn't matter if you lived in the property since you were 65 and now you're 80, they're only going to go back 5 years.
Right. The next question is just kind of a statement for clarification. This person asked, the last time I protested, I learned that every in-ground pool in my neighborhood had been devalued several years before. Is it true that every pool in my neighborhood is damaged in one way or another and will affect my assessed property?
So only if you have a pool, really? I mean, so one thing I also want to point out is that a lot of people ask that, does my valuation have anything to do? What if I lower my value? Is that going to affect me when I sell? No. I'm going to say this incorrectly, but no good real estate agent, good real estate agents do not pay attention to that tax valuation, because what are we doing here? We're talking about that valuation is incorrect. Real estate agents know that property tax valuation is not correct. So you or anybody else should never look at a Bexar County appraisal valuation as a sign, hey, should I sell my property? I couldn't tell you how many times a seller has reached out to me and told me, it's like, hey, you're saying my home is worth this, but Bexar County says it's worth this. It's like, I'm sorry, that Bexar County appraisal is incorrect. Now, for the different things that are wrong with your property, your roof is damaged, all that kind of stuff, that plays into your condition. So when we're talking about improvements, for example, that pool it would be counted as an improvement, and so there'll be a condition code to that. So let's think about this way. If your entire neighborhood was in average condition and a couple of homes in the area have been flipped, but they didn't go out and get permits. Bexar County sees permits, so they can see the improvements have been done. They can make adjustments for that. But if that neighbor flipped their home and didn't get permits for that, well, maybe Bexar County doesn't know any improvements done. So they are suggesting all that neighborhood has an average condition code and has sold for an extra amount. Well, they're assuming that since all these other homes are also average, that they are equal to all those other homes, which raises the valuation. So that pool, if all the homes in that area are saying their pools are in average condition, well, then they're going to equate that to all the other pools that are also in average condition in that area. So that's how that can be adjusted. But that's a lot of times people ask me is like, how does the condition codes affect everything? The condition codes of your property means a lot.
We've got time for about 3 more questions. The next one comes, does Bexar County Appraisal District have any interest in keeping taxes low to support affordable housing? And will we have to raise rent as taxes increase? Would they lower the value to support affordable housing?
That is actual, work and policies that our nonprofit has been trying to work through. There's talks about neighborhood empowerment zones for areas around San Antonio to see what kind of exemptions we could give into lower income communities, as well as seeking to get a property tax exemption for landlords that have low rent in the area, because landlords don't have tax exemptions. They could have had a renter live in a property for 10 years, but as the property taxes increase, they have to increase their rent. So, but there's no exemption that a landlord could apply for that long-term tenant. Well, that's something that we're trying to work towards and advocate for, these types of exemption. But to answer your question, no, there is no exemption specifically for the low-income community.
Okay. Here's a great question. What if a home is owned by 3 people, 2 that are 65 or older, and 1 daughter in their 30s, and one of the parents dies? Is there any help or relief for that situation?
So so if I can understand, the exemption is tied to the person, not to the house. So if that person, that senior lives in that property, then the exemption applies. As soon as they pass away or move away, that exemption goes away. The things that could help is one, you could call your tax collector's office. The appraisers have nothing to do with taxes. So they only have everything to do with appraisal. So another tip, do not bring up that you're trying to lower your tax amount with the appraisers. It's a moot point. They have no control over the amount of taxes you pay. That comes from the tax collector's office. They just handle the appraisers. So for those individuals that, lost a loved one and now they're trying to figure out how to pay these taxes, call your tax collector's office, Robert Ulysses, I'm probably saying his name incorrectly, office, and they can work with you. They can do quarterly payments. They can try to work something out. But when it comes to exemptions, those go away as soon as the person passes away. And then if you haven't told Bexar County that person passed away, or you didn't even know, well, I'm sorry, you're stuck with that bill. They're going to come back for back taxes. So they'll look at, hey, this person passed away so long ago, and we were giving you the freeze this entire time. Well, they're going to come after that homeowner, unfortunately. And so what you can do, and to look for some support, is Ms. Soto from NHSD is going to be talking later on. The Risk Mitigation Fund, which they have a fantastic staff that is working really hard out there to help out the community with the risk mitigation funds. If you need help with rental assistance, or if you're a landlord with renters that need help with assistance, there's the Risk Mitigation Fund out there, which can also help homeowners with property taxes and mortgage assistance. But I'll let her talk more about that great program in a little bit.
All right. Do all taxing entities freeze their taxes when you turn 65, or just some of them?
Not all of them. The San Antonio River Authority never freezes, and the University Health System never freezes. So those are the 2 taxing entities that never freeze, right? Now, I say that with saying that I've heard of some school districts not freezing their property taxes, but from what I've looked at so far, the majority of school districts freeze their property taxes. If you go to bcat.org and you go to taxing information, you can go and look at all the taxing exemptions that are out there per district and counties and all that. Well, not counties, but you know what I'm saying, the different taxing entities. But the University Health System and River Authority are the smaller tax rates in of all the taxing jurisdictions. So if you're a senior citizen, a lot of seniors think that their taxes are frozen. Well, the University Health System River Authority never freeze. So your property taxes is increasing just a little bit every year. But if you're living off of Social Security, hey, $50 is $50 of an increase, you know? So that's why we say everyone, every year, every homeowner, whether you live in the property or not, should assess whether or not they should protest their valuations every year.
Great. Is there a deadline to list your house under HS exemption?
For an exemption, I mean, they process the exemptions between January and April of every year. And then they go back 2 years. So again, if to this year's 2020 and you don't turn it in until 2021, they'll go back 2 years to get that exemption.
Okay, and the last question is how can they reach you, and what is the tax assessment website again?
It is bcat.org. That's B as in Bear County, A as in Apple, C as in cat, D as in dog.org. bcat.org is to look up your property tax information. And our nonprofit is My City is myhome.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys.
What was that?
Okay. I would like to acknowledge and thank again Rich Acosta for his many, many wonderful deeds of good work in the area of tax fighting and just making sure that tax fairness is in place. And also, I want to acknowledge great board members that I skipped over right quick in the interest of getting going, and that is Mario Llano, who's a wonderful person that has served as a executive director and as a chief of staff at Commissioner's Court and many other great things. I mentioned Liz Trainer, Marquise Williams, a realtor here in town who sits on our board, has done a wonderful job of taking care of making sure that real estate information and insight is given. And I mentioned Gene Mark, and I'm on the board as the chair. It is a pleasure to work with John Largent of Game Day Media, who's running the Zoom equipment, and also to have as our sponsors Union Pacific Railroad Foundation and Bear County. So once again, thanks a lot, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes or so. Thank you.
Go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to have an opportunity to work with top flight professionals in this work of making sure our neighborhoods are well taken care of. And there's no issue that is more powerful nor strong in terms of the long-term viability of a neighborhood than code enforcement. And our deputy director of code enforcement for the city of San Antonio is none other than Amin Tomas. He has been a deputy director for 2 years and with the city for 8 years. It's a very crucial function of our city government, as we know. Those of us that have been involved in neighborhood activities know of the importance of code enforcement, and we're very glad to have Amin Tomas with us this morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Amin Tomas on code enforcement.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner. Can everybody hear me? I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Okay, I'm assuming everybody can hear me, so let me jump in directly to the topic, basically. Again, my name is Amin Tomas, and I am with the City of San Antonio Development Services. Mainly, I'm responsible for building-related inspections and code enforcement. So today we want to talk a little bit about code enforcement and what happens when you call in a complaint or how to call in for a complaint. So before I start with that, basically, I just want to mention the top 5 violations in the City of San Antonio. So the first one is brush, trash, and debris. As everybody knows, if you put brush or trash or debris, in front of your property or anywhere on your property that it is visible from the public right-of-way, that is considered violation. Front yard parking, if you have any vehicles parked in the front yard or the side yard of your house, again, that is considered illegal. Inoperable vehicles, it's any vehicle that is inoperable basically, or dismantled, doesn't work. On junk vehicles, I'll talk about notices in a minute, but in regards to junk vehicles, when we see a vehicle or we get a complaint about vehicle and we know it doesn't work or we can verify that doesn't work, we issue a notice, but technically the owner of that vehicle has 30 days to fix it or get rid of the vehicle. After 30 days, we start with the formal process. Overgrown vegetation is like the picture up here. Basically, alleyways need to always be cleared. Sidewalks for pedestrian to walk. You don't want trees or limbs coming down on them. So technically, again, that is considered a violation. The last one is outside placement. So basically, any item that you put outside that is not designed to be outside. So if I have a patio and then I have a bench, then that's okay. But again, if you put anything that doesn't belong outside and it lasts for 24 hours, then that is considered a violation. So how do you report any code issue? So there is different ways. You can go to the City of San Antonio website, go to 311 and then put your complaint in. Or you can download the 311 app, free app on your smartphone. Actually, that's the one I use all the time. So while I'm driving, if I see violation, I stop by, take picture, log it in and continue. That's very easy to use. Or you can call 311 directly and talk to them and they will enter your complaint into the system. And then the last one is basically proactive inspections. every code officer, when they get a call and they go respond to that call, they are tasked to get 2 more calls, basically proactive calls. So for each one, I'm getting 2. So it's 2/3 basically of our workload. Because again, we don't want to go to one property and give them a notice that you have a violation, but then 2 properties down the street, there is the same violation and we didn't address it. So normally that's what we do. We go to the property, then around it, if we see anything else, we address those as proactive calls. So basically when you report a violation, then obviously we need to inspect the property to see and confirm either there is violation or not. So let's say if there is no violation, then technically we close the case. Now, if there was a violation, then we issue a notice, and I'll talk about it in a minute. We contact the owner and the tenant, and we post the notice on property. We go back for re-inspection after the notice expires. And if the violation is corrected, then we close the case. If the violation is not corrected, then we go to the next level, which is citation. So here is a little bit some information and definition of each one of these. So remember, I mentioned notices. So normally we give the homeowner or the tenant a notice that we witnessed a violation. And we normally give about 10 days to fix that. So if you have tall grass or you have outside placement or anything, or there is brush in the front yard, we give you 10 days to take care of that. So this is just a notice, it's not citation. You don't have to go to court, you don't have to do anything other than clear that violation. Now, again, remember what I said is if the violation is not corrected after the re-inspection, then now we move into citations. Citations is criminal citation, Class C misdemeanor. And normally, again, we issue those if we still see the violation after 10 days and there is no reason for the owner to not comply. And obviously with that, you need to summons to appear in court. We have an abatement program that we use to help people. I mean, in one aspect, we help to clean the city, but sometimes those fees will be associated with that property. So if there is a violation and it's not corrected, and we go to court and the judge says, yes, you are in violation, but they still cannot clean up or do anything. So then we step in and we take care of that and we clean the property. Again, as I said, depends on the cost, but if it's a bigger cost, then normally we put a lien on the property. We have a building standards board. It's a quasi-judicial board. And basically what they do is they hear any appeals in regards to San Antonio Property Maintenance Code, and they do review and they make ruling on any demolition. So dangerous premises, if there is a structure damage in a house, technically that can go to the board, the building standard board, and if the board says you need to demo the property, normally they give you 30 days or so. Or sometimes they say, no, you can repair it, and if you repair it quickly, then everything will be fine. So it depends on the case, it's case by case. The last one is administrative hearing officer. So basically what this is, it's again somewhat kind of citation, but it's civil citation. So technically just administrative, but you still need to go to court. And normally the city attorney's office is the one who's running that. And again, like any other citation, there's fines associated with it. So everybody has the right to due process. Like you guys know, we have 3 different branches in the United States. And obviously we have a bunch of amendments, but the 3 amendments that we deal with on day-to-day is the 4th Amendment, So we cannot search a property without having a probable cause. I can't just come to your property, knock the door, and bring a warrant with me and say, hey, I'm inspecting your property if I did not have a valid reason for it. So basically what happens here is if we witness a violation, we try to talk to the owner, try to give them information. If the violation is in the backyard and we see part of it, but we need to get the full image and they don't allow us in the property, we can go and get a warrant from the judge to get into the property and do full inspection. So that's where this one kicks in. So again, we have to get an order from the judge to get a warrant. The Fifth Amendment basically is saying everybody has a due process. So if you have like the steps we talked about, a notice, then a re-inspection, then citation, then you can appeal it and so forth. The 14th Amendment is again, same thing in regards to due process is a legal obligation of all states. So let's talk about the type of violations that we see. We broke the violations into, we have 4 tiers, but the top 2 are tier 1 and 2. So tier 1 is any violation that is considered health and safety issue. We are obligated to respond to that call. So what that means in 2 days, what that means is you call in a complaint. In 2 business days, we are obligated to go out there and do the first initial inspection. That doesn't mean the violation is gone or corrected in 2 days. So all what this means is when we get the call, we have 2 days to respond and go do an inspection. Tier 2 is basically property maintenance code. So any violation that's not really health and safety violation, we respond to those in 3 business days. The same concept. We go in 3 business days to do the initial inspection, talk to the owner or post a notice, and then we go through the process from that point on. Our main goal is to meet 90%. We want 90% compliance in 45 days. What that means is, again, we don't want to issue citations. We are not here to issue citations because obviously, even if we issue citations and there is a fee associated with it, we don't get anything. So just to make sure you guys understand that, we don't have any intentions to issue citations, but we do issue citations when we have to. So our goal is compliance. So if I can get 90% of the violations in compliance within 45 days, we are doing a good job. And normally we do meet that goal. This year is different because of COVID, but I'll talk about that in a minute. The goal for the BSB cases is actually longer because, as I said, we do the inspections, we follow up with the owner, then we take it to the building standard board, the BSB, and then they rule on it. And then after that, they give some time frame for either, again, a repair or demolition or anything else they issue. And normally those are closed in about 120 days. Some of them are a year or 6 months, and some of them are 60 days to 90. So our average is about 120 days. So again, during COVID, with COVID and this crisis that we got hit with, we understand everybody's frustrated. There is a lot of pressure and some people lost their jobs. So financially, they don't have the means to fix anything or even mow the grass sometimes. So basically what we did is we re-looked at everything and we said the non-emergency code violations, instead of even starting the process with the notice, we give something called educational form. It's similar to the notice, but it's kind of more a warning. And we give you 30 days to do that. So if you have tall grass, we come to you, we give you the education form, you have 30 days to comply instead of 10. After 30 days, if you don't comply, then we have to issue a 10-day notice. Then we go through the due process. So this is just 30 days upfront to allow you to get to it. If you don't have the means to, you don't have a lawnmower, for example, we have a tool shed that you are welcome to come and use. You drop your ID, you pick up the lawnmower, you go cut your grass, bring it back, get your ID. So technically, if you need that, we have some of that capacity. Now, code violations that they are imminent health and safety, we cannot give 30-day notice or educational form. So therefore, those will just take the standard process. Some of those examples is dangerous premise, grass that's higher than 4 feet. So if I have grass that's, or overgrown vegetation that's over 48 inches, technically that is a life safety issue, or health mainly. It's mainly health issue, rodents and things like that, and trash or whatever can be there and you cannot see it. So we consider that an imminent health and safety concern. Obviously, if you have a leak in the sewer, like sewer line is broken and there's a big leak, traffic signs, unsecured vacant structures, properties with extensive history of reported code violations. So if I get a property that every 2-3 days we get a call about it and we go there and we see the violation and then we go again and we keep going, those are again considered imminent health and safety concerns, and we jump on it immediately. So as everybody knows, the mayor had the declaration, emergency declaration, and basically it kind of mirrors the governor's one. Sometimes there's a couple of tweaks in it. But what we were tasked to do by the mayor is we were tasked to do enforcement of those rules. We cannot do it on our own, so actually we pulled 3 other departments. So it's Development Services, Code Enforcement. We are the main department responsible for this. The second one is San Antonio Police Department. They are actually helping us a lot. Then Metro Health and CCDO, Center City Development and Operations. So with the 4 departments, we are managing those calls. And just to give you an idea, from early March, when all this kind of started, to now, we have about 10,000 complaints in regards to either people are not wearing masks, there is a big gathering of people without social distancing. We get calls sometimes from employees saying my employer is not providing me with PPE, which is, gloves potentially, or masks, or hand sanitizer, or anything like that. So we get a lot of calls, and they vary, but we have to respond to those. So we created a team. And with that said, what the team came from is obviously code enforcement. So we pulled originally about 40 code officers to do this task. And then when the governor started reopening Texas, then we dropped it down to 20 code officers. So still 20 code officers out of 100, that's 20%. So that's why we are a little bit behind the curveball in regards to response time and compliance rate. So again, the current emergency declaration, obviously everybody hears the news, everybody knows about this, but here is like some top, I guess, ones. Face covering is required. Again, it doesn't have to be a mask. It can be a bandana, it can be a scarf, it can be anything you want to do, but just basically make sure you cover your face and nose. Just to let people know, bars are closed. The governor did not allow bars to open. There was some small period of time where they were closed, then they reopened with certain occupancy load, but then they got them closed again. Restaurants are open now at 50% occupancy load. Social distancing guidelines, we need to comply with that. Just FYI, city pools and splash pads are closed. The city decided not to open those for now to minimize the spread of this virus. Then again, one of the bigger ones is residential gathering of up to 10 people. You can have up to 10 people at your property. But when you start having 20, 30, 40, that's a mass gathering. And if somebody calls us, we will go out there and check it out. At this moment, we don't do a lot of proactive in regards to the declaration enforcement because, again, we are trying just to catch up with the calls we get. We do a couple of proactive calls when we have the time. So if the officer did not get a second call, they do a couple of proactive inspections and then again, wait for the next call. Basically, the contact information here is Mike Urasti is the DSD manager for basically, he's over District 1, 2, and 3. So you guys are under Mike Urasti. I'm the deputy director and that's my phone number. And you can go to our website, sanantonio.gov/DSD. So with that said, I went through my presentation. Now I know there's a bunch of questions, but before I answer the questions, I just want to talk about a couple of things. The budget, I know I hear this question all the time. What's going on with the budget? Are we going to get more money for code enforcement officers, additional officers? Are we going to get money for additional abatement funds or anything like that? Technically this year with the COVID and technically the city in total is not making enough money compared to before COVID. So this coming year, there is potentially some actually reduction in hiring, probably freeze hiring and things like that to try to minimize our expenses or to lower, not to minimize, to lower our expenses to keep us going for a longer period of time. That's just the concept. We don't have yet a decision. The city manager will present the budget to city council mid-August. And then about mid-September, city council will vote on it, approve, deny, omit, change, anything like that. When it's adopted, it goes in effect October 1st. So right this moment, I don't have much information about the budget yet. The other thing I want to just talk about is, again, hopefully you guys know our mission statement for the department is partnering with the community to build and maintain San Antonio. Code enforcement is to maintain safer San Antonio, obviously. And I know code enforcement reputation is not like the best because we, again, issue notices or education forms or potentially citations. We kind of relay bad news sometimes for people. If they are living in a structure that's about to fall and we see that, we have to get them out because we are worried about their safety. But with that said, we do have other programs that help. So I think Rich mentioned something about neighborhood and housing services. So they have some funds to help displacement. Anytime we have to move somebody or evict somebody from their property due to the condition, we reach out to neighborhood services department and we work with them to help this citizen. On the other hand, I'll just be honest with you, we have a lot of code officers who volunteer on their own time, sometimes their own equipment, to go and cut grass, cut trees, things like that, pick up some trash, potentially for a citizen. If the citizen doesn't have the financial means and the officer sees that, normally we try to help. Again, this is not a requirement. We are not required to do this, but a lot of code officers help tremendously. I'll just give one example, basically. There was an older gentleman who lived in a property and it was really in bad condition. I mean, the structure is bad, furniture is almost, there is really none. There is few things. So we had to move him out. We put him in an apartment. We paid for it for a couple of months. And then after that, he managed to get himself up to speed, I guess. But even with that, he didn't have furniture. So a group of code officers decided to chip in, and they went and bought a bed, they bought a mini fridge, they bought, some kitchen appliances or supplies to help this gentleman to actually live. So he has an apartment, he has some furniture at least. So they paid for it out of their own pocket. And again, it's not required, but when we hear about that, I'm definitely excited, and I respect those officers because they are doing the best they can to help our community. So again, with that said, I kind of talked about everything I want to. I'm open for any questions.
Okay. I have a question here. It says that 311 no longer assigns as a priority to threatening, racist, or obscene graffiti with the end of last year. What can be done to reestablish a priority for obscene, racial, or threatening graffiti that was dropped from the 311 update at the end of last year?
Okay, I'll just be honest with you. I was not aware that the graffiti was dropped off 311. I believe you can still put a request in or a complaint in regarding to graffiti. I can check my phone real quick on the app just to make sure it's still active. So if I go in and I want to add something, the third item on the list categories, the first one is animals, the second one is garbage and dumping, the third one is graffiti. And then you just say, is it in the park, a park, city park, or is it in private property, private fence? Is it in public property, curbside, guardrails, traffic poles, boxes, or is it traffic sign? So there is those options to select from, and then we will definitely respond to that. Graffiti team responds, our average is 1 day. So anytime we get a complaint, either we take care of it the same day or the very next day.
All right. The next question is, does your department involve NHSD when a rental property has health and safety code violations and needs to help paying for them? Do they have any programs to support these violations? And does your department, and here's a statement, your department has a great reputation as one of the most transparent and friendly of the most city departments.
Thank you. Really appreciate that comment. So definitely we do work with NHSD, Neighborhood Housing Services Department, all the time. Again, as I said, if we find a homeless encampment, we reach out to them and DHS to help us help those folks and get them a better living. Just again, one of the examples is we had, one of the cases we had is it's a full apartment complex. It had about 50 or 54 people or units rented. And there was no hot water, there was trash, debris, rodents, walls are broken, stairs are broken. Exterior stairs are very loose, so they are dangerous. You walk up, you're almost gonna fall. So it was really in bad condition. For some reason, it was under the radar for a while. But then when we start getting calls, we went the first time, we noticed a lot. We went the second time. Anyways, after a couple of visits, we basically decided at that point to shut down that apartment complex. So we worked with NHSD and DHS to basically help those folks. And I think, I don't remember the numbers now, this is a couple of years old story, but I believe about 30 of the tenants or more, maybe 40, they did accept the help. So we put them in a hotel for a week or two while we are arranging an apartment for them. Obviously, we will not pay for the apartment for a long time, but we pay sometimes for utility deposits. Sometimes we pay first month of rent, things like that. Like we pay as much as we can with the funds we have. And I'm sure Veronica Sato, the director of NHSD, will be talking a little bit about those aspects.
I also have another comment. I have found code enforcement to be diligent, helpful, and polite. I think your department does a very good job. That's a great compliment.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that. I'm surprised because all what I hear is complaints. So a lot of times I get calls from citizens saying, yeah, I'm working with the code officer or the manager and they're not doing anything. So I get a lot of complaints. So I assumed our reputation is not that good, but based on your comments, thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right, another question: is parking on a driveway blocking the sidewalk a code violation or a police department matter?
If the vehicle is parked on the sidewalk, technically the sidewalk is still, although it's public space, but it is considered the responsibility of the house in front of it. So if there's a vehicle on the sidewalk, yes, you can call us, we will get involved. If the vehicle is in the street and it's been there for over 48 hours, that's the police department, because they are responsible for anything on the streets and the public right of way.
All right, another question involving vehicles. What if there's a non-working car parked in a driveway? Can we still call to report that?
Yes, you can call and report that. And as I mentioned earlier, what we will do is we will go visit the location. We try to talk to the owner and say, hey, is this vehicle, does it work or not? And if they say, yes, it works, we say, can you show me? They get in the car. If they start it, they go back 4 or 5 foot, go forward 4 or 5 feet, then technically we close the case. It could look like a junk vehicle, maybe because they're not using it a lot, but sometimes we get those calls. If we get out there and we physically check on the vehicle and the vehicle does not work, then yes, what we will do is give the homeowner a notice. We say you have 30 days to either fix the vehicle or remove the vehicle from your property. And then after that, we go through the normal process. And again, we don't want to take anybody's personal property. Vehicles are personal property. We don't want to take any. But some cases, because we tried to work with the owner and nothing happened, we ended up basically towing those vehicles and basically taking them away.
Okay, next question. Is a residence with trash in front and back a violation that will be addressed by code enforcement? This is an ongoing issue for an address in my area.
I'm sorry, John, can you repeat that?
Yes. Is a resident with trash in front and back a violation that will be addressed by code enforcement? This is an ongoing issue for an address in my area.
Yes, definitely. Technically, that's considered outside placement. If whatever is there has been there for over 24 hours, then it is a violation. Now, if somebody puts an item out in the morning, in the evening he takes it back in, or the very next day in the morning, that's okay. But if they leave things outside, then that's outside placement and that is a violation.
Okay. Next question. If there is a performance gathering of more than 10 individuals at a private venue, is that a violation and should it be reported?
Yes, at this moment it is a violation because the mayor and the governor order states that you cannot have more than 10 people in a gathering. So if you do exceed that, that is a violation. Now for those violations, for the emergency declaration enforcement or violations, please call San Antonio Police Department, the non-emergency number. All those calls, they go through them, through their dispatch, and then they again send them to us and we will go and respond.
Next question. Are you satisfied with the level of funding for code compliance?
I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, if we have more, then we can have more code officers. We can serve the community even a little bit more. But I think at this time, we cover the city very good, basically. And I think we are okay at the moment, but like anything else, if you get more funds, more resources, then you might be able to do a little bit more.
Someone was just wanting clarification on the parking in the street. Is that limit 48 hours or 24 hours?
If the vehicle is parked in the public right of way in the street, it is 48 hours. So police department will ask you when you call it in, they will say, hey, how long it's been? If you say 1 day, they will tell you we cannot respond to that. If it sits outside for 48 hours, then you can call PD and normally they take care of that. In regards to the 24 hours is basically any outside placement, not vehicles. So again, if you have any items sitting outside, if they stay more than 24 hours, that is considered a violation.
Okay. Do you still have a Saturday officer with special direct phone number?
We do have a supervisor and about 12 or 13 code officers every Saturday. Again, they do get calls through 311. So when anybody calls 311, they will dispatch or create that case. They send it to us and we try to jump on it as soon as we can. Now there is something else, we call it the code hotline, code enforcement hotline. That one, we created our own kind of small team to respond to calls. So if somebody calls that number, then we respond to it. We create the case instead of 311, and then we will respond to that.
Okay. And just clarification on something earlier, the graffiti is still on 311, but it's no longer a priority response. Is there anything that can be done to move up the priority?
And again, I mean, if you create a claim on 311 for graffiti, it will come to us like within minutes or hours max. We will get it. Our response time for graffiti is 1 day. So I don't know if maybe on the 311 app, they changed it from high priority to lower priority on the app. But for us, the minute we get it, we respond.
It's coming back.
All right. All right, just a second. Okay, real fine. Well, thank you very much, Amin, for your insight into one of the most important issues that the city faces in terms of the various code enforcement matters. I want to once again thank Union Pacific and Bexar County for helping us put on this event here today, and want to acknowledge and thank the board members of the Bowen Center for Neighborhood Advocacy, and that is Mario Yano, Marquise Williams, Liz Trainer, Gene Mark, and myself. And we're looking forward to continued greatness in our neighborhoods, and look forward to working with John Largent, who's been a very wonderful person to help keep ourselves going. Anyway, let me say we've got a 5-minute break here, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Back.
Hi, Veronica.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. They're on about a 5-minute break,
Okay.
and I can hear you and see you very well. So when Commissioner Atkinson comes back on, I'll have him do the introduction, and you'll go from there.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. Veronica, you may want to mute yourself until you come back. I can hear you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you can.
All right. Well, glad to come back in for the roundup here. And I am very honored to present to you our Director of Neighborhood and Housing Services, Ms. Veronica Soto. A couple of us met with Veronica a couple of years ago, actually, for coffee, and the department at that time was just being formed. It only had a couple of, or a handful of employees. Since then, many new responsibilities have been added, along with many employees and a much larger budget that goes with that. This has been especially due, of course, to the new programs related to coronavirus. We are very happy that Veronica could share her time with us this morning. And so, Veronica, take it away.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. So first, let me thank the Boyne Center for allowing me to share this morning with you. And second, I hope everyone is staying safe and is well during these hard times. I'm very grateful I had the opportunity to put on lipstick today, so thank you for that. What I want to talk to you about is what we are doing as a department during this very extraordinary time to respond to the crisis. And I want to hone in on one program that I want you and your neighbors to be aware of, that is called our Emergency Housing Assistance Program. But before I do that, I want to tell you what we do as a department. And so I'm going to start sharing my screen and share a PowerPoint so that I can walk you through what we are doing. Okay. So I hope everyone can see this PowerPoint. Let me go ahead and play it. So our department has this COVID-19 Emergency Housing Assistance Program, and I'm going to spend most of my time talking about that. But I do want you to know what else our department does. So in that introduction, you heard that our department has grown, and indeed it has. Our department is responsible for not just neighborhood engagement and programs related to that, but also a lot of housing related issues. So some of the teams in our department do housing production. And so that means working with homeowners to address issues they may have in their homes so we can help them rehab, reconstruct, take on minor repairs, or put a new roof on their home. We took on fair housing, which in this pandemic has become quite important. And so that has to do with ensuring that folks in our community are aware of the fair housing issues, which includes if there's discrimination because, you know, someone has too many kids or are told they have too many kids and they can't find a house to rent or an apartment to rent, and those kinds of issues. And of course, that team also addresses evictions, which is a big concern in our community and throughout the nation right now. A lot of our work is done through grants, federal grants, primarily from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. And so we administer all those grants, and some of those funding sources help some of our programs, but also other departments at the city. Of course, we have to be good fiscal stewards of the money provided in those grants, as well as any general fund money or other funding sources we have. We run the tax increment financing unit that also helps us with more public infrastructure and economic development. Our department is also the one tasked with implementation of the housing bond that our community voted to approve. First time in the city's history that housing was part of that housing bond, and so we administer that program. And of course, anything related to housing policy, we also are responsible for. So you can imagine we're very busy with housing production, housing policy, making sure we use the grants appropriately, and in this time with fair housing. So those are the units, but some of the programs you may have heard include our owner-occupied rehab program, our Under One Roof program, the minor repair program, and a lead abatement program. And so those are to help current homeowners. The lead abatement program also helps renters or landlords who have rental properties remediate lead issues. Of course, I think many of you are familiar with our neighborhood engagement team and the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. We provide funding for housing development, so a lot of gap financing, or we help facilitate additional housing development. One thing that our department took on last year is overseeing the Promise Zone and the MLK Commission. So our department is involved even with the MLK March in January. I mentioned affordable housing development and gap financing, so we continue to be a big source of financing for new and rehab of affordable housing in our community. Of course, do that in partnership with a lot of for-profit and not-for-profit developers. And then emergency housing assistance is a program I'll spend a lot of time talking about with you. And through the tax increment reinvestment zones, or a TIF unit, tax increment financing, we do public improvements and economic development projects. So those are some of the things you may have heard our department programs talk about or other people mention. So I want to hone in on our emergency housing assistance program. And the foundation for that program, and this is a big part of what the city is doing to respond to the pandemic, was the Risk Mitigation Fund. This is something that was crafted with the Mayor's Housing Policy Task Force thinking, where they had a lot of policy recommendations, including creating this fund. And it was approved first in fiscal year 19. We approved it this fiscal year. And our goal was to mitigate displacement impacts. We know neighborhood issues are going through that. And so this was supposed to help families by, if they could no longer afford to stay where they were at, helping them relocate to something that was more affordable, to provide rapid rehousing, and have staff, housing navigators that could help families. And so with about the $1 million, we helped, our estimates were helping 200 families. So this program and the policy we developed through a very, very involved public engagement process, some of these pictures are from that process, is a foundation for what is now our COVID-19 Emergency Housing Assistance Program. The city, I think, has been very focused, and this is because of the city manager's leadership, in making sure our mission pivoted, from providing all these services to making sure our mission is about response, it's about recovery, and it's about operations. So we do response, we do recovery, and we do operations. And a big part of our response, which I hope is also a big part of recovery, is this COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Program. So this was approved on April 23rd. And again, the foundation was a policy developed for the Risk Mitigation Program to provide rental and mortgage assistance to our families. It is very important to make sure that during this pandemic, people can remain housed. And one way to do it, as people were losing income streams, was to make sure we help pay their rent or their mortgage. So renters and homeowners benefit from this. We know that if people were struggling with rent or mortgage payments, they were probably also struggling with their utility payments. So SAWS, CPS are part of what we help take care of. We knew a lot of kids were going to have to learn at home and do it in this manner that we're sharing now remotely. And so we added internet as a utility that we would also cover to make sure families remain connected. And we heard a lot from the community about how some families just needed cash. They needed to buy groceries. They needed to make sure they had fuel. They needed to ensure, maybe they had a car payment they had to take care of as well. And so we added a component to have direct cash assistance be part of the whole package that is part of the Emergency Housing Assistance Program. I'm very proud to say that San Antonio was among the first to be out the gate with a program like this. Many other communities have released their programs since April, but we were among the first to have it out. And we are arguably the largest such program in the nation. So I'm very proud of the leadership that went into that. Again, because we had the Risk Mitigation Fund policy in place, it allowed us to move very quickly to ensure we had a policy that was going to be good, and we just needed to get the money to run this program. So the initial allocation was 25 million. We took it out of very different sources, including some of our federal funds, some of the coronavirus relief fund, the CARES Act money that came to us. We had an extra $7.7 million in CDBG funds that came from that. And so we devoted 25 million to this program. And in June, we added additional money, an additional 25.6 million, again, out of the congressionally approved coronavirus relief fund, so that we can help our families, our friends, our neighbors stay housed during this pandemic. In March, when stay-at-home orders went into effect, I saw the calls to our fair housing hotline go from about 57 a week to over 5,300. That was in 1 week. I didn't have enough staff to answer the phones because people were very nervous and starting to get desperate about what am I going to do if I can't pay the rent. And so we knew with social distancing that we couldn't do our paper applications and face-to-face intake. So we launched an online application process. To have an online presence for a program like this in less than a month was incredible. We've been working at breakneck speed to make sure we stand up this program. And the volume was very intense, and you can see that from this graph. Formally, City Council approved the COVID-19 Emergency Housing Assistance Program in April 23rd, and that was when the $25 million, half of it being federal funds, half of it local sources, everything from the general fund to funding we had received for affordable housing from the tax increment reinvestment zone, to help from the San Antonio Housing Trust, and even donations, because we launched a donation line as well in partnership with a lot of the philanthropy that was happening in March and April. And in that month, our staff went from 8 to 41. Remember, I didn't have enough staff to just handle the calls coming in. And in May, we knew we had to double the staff because the applications went, in April. And remember, we launched this online April 16th. So in like 2 weeks, we had nearly 6,000 people asking for help. We have gotten the applications throughout. We have not closed our application. It is online, and I needed more staff. At that point, the city went remote, of course, and so we had people who could not do their regular jobs. So I ended up getting a lot of folks who work at the library, some people in HR that ended up being part of the team for this program. That's how we doubled the staff. So staff was redeployed. Someone who couldn't be at the library checking out yearbooks was now answering calls about this program or reviewing applications and learning how to do eligibility income verification. In May and June, we heard a lot of feedback. Again, when you launch an online presence in about 2 weeks, you're not going to get it perfect. Normally, when you go online, it's a 6-month process and a lot of testing, and a community couldn't wait. So we launched it, we did our best, but we knew it wasn't perfect, and many folks told us it wasn't perfect. So we streamlined the process, changed the questions, made sure we were clear. So we have streamlined throughout May and June. My boss likes to say that we were flying a plane even as we were building it. And that's what we had to do because the need is so great. And you can see that from this graph. And these are the applications that have been submitted and we're processing. So what's the eligibility? Because we're using federal funds, we are doing income eligibility. We do help families that are at or below 100% of the area median income. And that's a technical term, but just think of it this way. Area median income means the middle. Median is the middle. So the median income in San Antonio is the halfway point for all our community, which means that half of our city, half of it, the median is the middle, half of our city is eligible for this program. And so you can see by family size that varies, and at the bottom of this slide are the income levels. So a 4-person family that makes on an annual basis 72,000 or below is eligible for this program. They have to be the primary lease and mortgage holder. They need to be within the city limits. And again, we need documentation. We need the mortgage, the lease agreement, and the reason why they cannot pay the rent, the financial hardship that they're facing. So I have seen a lot of unemployment letters, a lot of furlough letters, and a lot of documents like that that show how many people got hours reduced, that got laid off. And so what we help with, and again, very proud that this is one of the more generous programs throughout the nation, is we help with up to $3,500. And this is for up to 3 months. And so it's not, we don't pay someone's mortgage if their mortgage is $3,500. But if their mortgage is around $1,200 and we need to pay 2 months, we can do that as long as we don't exceed the $3,500. For utility and internet, the cap is $1,500, and again, up to 3 months. And all of these are paid directly to the service provider. So yes, we do pay the landlord, or we pay the mortgage company, we pay CPS or SAWS, or we pay Time Warner if that's who the internet provider is. So all of these payments are made to the provider on behalf of the tenant. The direct cash assistance is something that really was innovative. We're using local funds because we can't use federal funds for this. And we also had to partner with someone that we had a relationship with called Family Independence Initiative. They're a national not-for-profit that already works in this space providing direct cash assistance to residents. So we bundled this into our program. We had to use a nonprofit because the city as a government entity cannot gift items. That's also why we pay the providers instead of giving the money or the assistance directly to the clients. And so the nonprofit can gift items and there's no tax consequences. You don't want to give someone some help and then have the IRS say, hey, tell us about that and we'll tax you on it. So Family Independence Initiative is a nonprofit that is helping us make sure that people get this cash that has come in very handy for folks. And so folks can opt, they get a code, they can opt to have the money directly deposited to their bank account. They share that information, or they can have a prepaid debit card mailed to them. And again, we base it on family size, capping it at $300. I've had people cry when they tell me, thank you for that cash. It's that kind of program. So again, what was the initial budget? April 23rd, $25 million. Some for program administration, some, a lot of it from federal funds, and a lot of it from local funds. I am so grateful that many tax increment reinvestment zones added additional money to make this budget be a reality, and of course to the San Antonio Housing Trust and the foundations or the boards that are part of that. We did take some money out of our own affordable housing budget as well. So, and even beyond what we as a department have, the city was creative and looked at the general fund and that parking fund. So this was the initial funding. Very important to have local money in here because some of the federal funding could not be utilized for some families in our community. So CDBG funding only helps family at or below 80% of AMI. So anyone above that, from 80 to 100% could not use federal money. And some of our families who are undocumented don't qualify for federal funds, so we can use local funds to help those families. June 4th, the budget grew, and this is all federal money with the coronavirus relief funding. And you can see here additional money. We added more for program administration because some of the redeployed staff had to go back. We started hiring temps who could be full-time devoted and trained to move our program more quickly. And then we also had some contracts. We had to have a little bit more changes to the online, so we had contracts for that. We needed to do more outreach because we know the digital divide is real. And so we had some money for outreach. But now we have a $50+ million program. And the goal is to try and assist hopefully 20,000 households in our community. So this is part of that housing security expanded budget. And all of this is part of the city's recovery and resiliency plan that went to council on June 3rd. Housing is one of the pillars of that plan. So is workforce development, so is public health. And so there's some departments that are spending a lot of time making sure we have that recovery and resiliency plan and help our families make it through this crisis. One of the things that was one of the improvements that we made is we have this dashboard. You can see the link right there. You can see it in real time. You can see exactly how many applications have been received and how many are in what stage. And you can see how much we have expended by the categories I mentioned. The most important part of this program is to keep our friends, our neighbors' house. And that's why you see that over 23 million, and this is as of yesterday. If I went to look at it live right now, the numbers would be different. But you can see that the bulk of the money is for rent and mortgage because we want to keep our family's house. And this dashboard, you can see it anytime, and it's live. And if you put it on and like 5 minutes later during a workday, you click on it or refresh, you'll see the numbers change. It is taking applications as they come in. It's in English and Spanish, as is our online application. This is what the online application looks like. Again, it is in English and Spanish. We are trying to make it as easy as possible, knowing that we still need that documentation because we're qualifying families in the same way. And we ask, what is it that you need, rent, mortgage, etc. But families have been able to do it over their phones. There's some grassroots groups that have done in-person intake. I have gone to a bunch of parishes and community organizations to help with my iPad. Families also apply online. We wear a mask and we socially distance, but some people do need that help. But people can do it online. And so every day, oh my goodness, I was supposed to have some info in our public hearing. Okay, so that's the Emergency Housing Assistance Program. I mentioned that we are managing federal grants. I think all of you are aware that the city is working on the budget right now. And it's still important, even as we are socially distanced, to hear your voice. That's why sessions like this are so important, but we still want to hear from you. So for the city budget, I want to make sure you're aware of the SA Speak Up input you can provide. This is a survey. I put the link up there, but if you go to the city website and just put SA Speak Up, you can contribute your voice. Of course, I would hope people highlight housing as an important issue, but whatever your opinion is about where the city should spend its money, let us know, because the city council does look at these numbers. So this is one way in which you can help us shape the budget for next year. A second way you can help us is by telling us if what we're proposing for our HUD grants for next year is appropriate. So we do have a virtual public hearing this month at 2 p.m. There's the information, so you can go. You can also go to our website and get this information. So first, a virtual public hearing, and there's, obviously I took this from the website, so it says click here, but you can also call in and join by phone. And then the second public hearing will actually be at City Council B session, so you can see that date there on August 12th. And we are, of course, proposing that with HUD grants, we continue to do housing programs. Some money slated for the COVID-19 Emergency Housing Assistance Program. And hopefully this was something that showed you what the city is doing to respond. I see our Housing Assistance Program as also our recovery program, because if we keep our friends and neighbors housed during this pandemic, it will be a way in which they can recover. If we help them find a way to stay healthy by making sure housing insecurity is not an issue, it will be what helps us recover as a city, as a community. And of course, our department and the city continue to provide our basic operations. And so I just want to leave you knowing that the city is responding, the city is recovering and working toward recovery, and we will continue to provide the basic operations that all of you help us fund. And at this point, I think I can take some questions see. There's already some questions, or were you going to have questions for me to answer? If you're going to read
Yeah.
them to me.
Yeah, I
Okay.
do. First question is, how long does emergency housing assistance last for a family?
Good question. So a family can get up to 3 months of assistance. So that's how long the program is. We have had families come in and ask for 1 month, and they came back and we applied for an additional month. But our program is about helping families for 3 months. For some families, they only needed 1 month. Some families, unfortunately, are struggling and may need more than that. So we're going to have a conversation about next fiscal year. If we continue this program, of course, we have to find the money, perhaps being able to help longer than that. But right now, our policy is 3 months of assistance.
Okay, next question is, your program appears to be so helpful. Is there a comparable program at the county level? If so, is there
Oh.
communication and cooperation between the city and the county?
Oh, what a great question. Yes, so the city, of course, has our emergency rental assistance program, but the county, also using some of their coronavirus or CARES Act money, has a program called TRAM. The city and the county have worked very closely. I can say that in the over 3 years I have been here, this is the closest cooperation we have had with the county. And so they do have a program in the county as well. It is focused on rental assistance, and so we refer clients to them a lot. A lot of the folks that we end up denying, I would say a bunch of them are because they're outside the city limits, but we give them the TRAM information. Another partnership that we have with the county is around evictions. So our staff and county staff have been going to the eviction court hearings so that we can tell folks who are facing eviction about both of our programs. And that's been a wonderful partnership as well. So that's a great question. Thank you for allowing me to share that the county is also doing a program like this.
All right, you got a great comment here. Wow, you must find your work very fulfilling. You get to help out San Antonio families in a very meaningful way.
Yeah, it's hard work. But when we get nice thank you notes, it's very fulfilling. It's what the moment demands of us. So I'm happy I get to lead this effort, but I have a great team. And so together, we're going to make a difference.
All right, another question is, how long does the $50 million last?
Wow. So that's a number we are tracking very closely because we had expected the money to last through November. But in the last month, we have seen an increase in the number of applications that we have received. So about a month ago, we were getting 115 applications a day. And just this past week, we were getting over 200 applications a day. Every day we process and pay out about $500,000 for clients in our program. So I'm afraid that we're going to be out of money. Again, it's all on the volume. So I'm calculating we'll probably be out of the $50 million in October. So of course I'm very worried about that. But it's because we have seen an uptick in the applications. Part of what's driving the uptick, I think, is our work at the eviction courts. Part of it is the fact that folks who may be getting unemployment are aware that the additional money that Congress approved is not coming. And of course, it could also be that, I am worried about when the CARES Act restrictions on evictions are lifted. Right now, any property that receives any kind of federal assistance cannot file evictions. So those are going to be lifted. And so I am worried about that. And it could be, the numbers could be driven up by that. So I'm hopeful that we have a program that lasts us longer, but it looks like by October, we might have expended the 50 million.
Great. I have one more comment here. Congratulations on the development of the Affordable Housing Dashboard for nonprofits who have housing navigators, as well as families looking for housing for seniors. This is a game changer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad we have it out there. Are there other questions you all have?
That's it in the chat room.
Okay, awesome. Well, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. Thank the Bowen Center for allowing me to share very important information. If you have questions, reach out to us. We have a hotline for not just the Emergency Housing Assistance Program, but for our Financial and Housing Recovery Center. And that number is 207-5910. And we can help families who are in need or in crisis. So that number is 207-5910. And you can email me as well. I'll get back to you. Maybe not the same day, but I'll get back to you to help you answer any other questions you may have. Thank you so much for the opportunity to spend this morning with you. And thank you again to the Bowen Center for inviting me to share our information.
Thank you, Veronica. It's a real pleasure to have had you. And as Director of our Neighborhood and Housing Services, we know that we're in good hands there. So thank you. That pretty well wraps up our event. I want to thank Union Pacific Railroad Foundation and Bexar County, our sponsors, as well as John Largen, who's with Game Day Media, has done a great job of running our Zoom equipment and teaching us how to do business in a different way. Of course, my board, Mario Yano, Liz Trainer, Marquise Williams, Gene Mark, and myself, of course, we're delighted to provide anything that will strengthen our neighborhoods. And today's event is just another volley of information and strength, hopefully, for our neighborhoods to maintain themselves, to sustain themselves, and be all they can be. So many thanks for all that y'all have done. Thank you.
Commissioner Atkinson, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate the opportunity, and we're going to have this event recorded in its entirety and available on the website at www.bowencentersa.org early next week.
Fantastic. Fantastic, John. And you've done a great job. We're much obliged. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet.